See, you are a cop. So when you kill someone, it's murder. I kill people. So when I do it, it's labor.
Yeah. Welcome to the What's Our Verdict podcast. We fashion ourselves cinematic judge and jury. My name is JJ Crowder. I'm here with my co-host, Javier Ortiz.
What is up, my nerds?
And Ian Anderson.
Some shit.
We appreciate your help growing the podcast by hitting that follow or subscribe button. Tell a friend about us. Go check out our website, whatsourverdict.com, where you can listen to all of our episodes. You can sign up for our newsletter to get exclusive content and updates. You can also pick up some merchandise, support the podcast in that way, and then interact with us in many ways. So please do that. The question we always ask is if you ever find yourself wondering if you spend the time, money, or both on a movie. To help with that question, each week we put a movie on trial, discuss the facts, pass judgment, and let you know our verdict. Today we're reviewing CopShop. It was released September 17th, 2021. It was written by Kurt McLeod and Joe Carnahan. It was directed by Joe Carnahan. Stars Alexis Louder, Gerard Butler, Frank Grillo, Toby Huss, Ryan Onan, and Chad Coleman. On the run from a lethal assassin, a wily con artist devises a scheme to hide out in a small-town police station, but when the hitman turns up at a precinct, a young cop finds herself caught in the crosshairs. If you haven't seen this movie and you want to avoid spoilers, now's the time to pause the podcast, go watch the movie, and then come back once you've seen it, pick up where you left off. If you're okay with spoilers, hang out with us because we're about to spoil the shit out of this thing. Guys, this movie, I've been thinking about this movie all bloody weekend. Like, it just... And I kept trying to find time to go see it again, and I've just had so many things going on that we weren't able to. But, man, this movie was hella entertaining.
Yeah, I don't even know where to start. Like, it's just from start to finish. It's so funny. Yeah.
Well, let's start from the beginning because I was pleasantly surprised with the dialogue right out the gate when you're introduced to this cop, Val. So you got Valerie Young, and she and her sergeant are at a taco truck getting some food, and the sergeant buys a handgun for his daughter's 21st birthday from basically like out of the back of this taco truck. I was like, what is happening right now out in the desert of Vegas, and he buys a gun for his daughter's 21st birthday along with their lunch. I was like, this is the greatest start to a movie. How do I get mad at this right now?
It's stuff like that when people make the argument, it's really easy to get a gun. It's really hard for me to argue against that sometimes.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's those small towns, man, because apparently all this that's in this county is a taco truck and a police station because that's all you ever see.
Dude,
and then like
that was a super nice police station for the fact that there's like 4 cops and like 5 people in this town.
Well, it had like 3 or 4 levels to the building, right? Like it was not a small building.
They pull up and I'm like, that's some state-of-the-art shit for the middle of the fucking desert in Vegas. I was like, wow, okay. But then it gets going pretty quick. Like they get this call and the sergeant's in the middle eating his food and gets all pissed off because they got to go. So he's grabbing up his tacos or whatever it was that he was eating. And then like they got to go respond to this interruption or this like wedding fight, which Ian reminded me of. I forgot but yeah, there's this big fight that breaks out at this wedding. And I was like, oh, I want to know, why are they fighting? Because that's funny shit. Like there was somebody in like a tux and the wedding dress was hanging out and they're all brawling in front of this shitty little casino. And she comes in and just acts like she's going to solve it. This
movie started out with me just making fun of police to Ian because I was like, oh yeah, heaven forbid you guys have to stop eating shit and go do your fucking job.
You got the like stereotypical police like shooting up into the Hollywood police that shoot up into the air to get stuff to stop, and you're like, that's no.
Well, that's illegal. You can't just shoot in the air.
Yeah.
And then she just tases the dude like 3 times.
Yeah.
They're like, wow, those are all crimes that I just witnessed.
When I did love the fact that, like, you saw it in the trailer when he punches her, when Frank Grillo character comes out of nowhere, like, arrest me. And then he just levels this cop, Val, like, and then he
immediately starts apologizing.
I didn't mean to lean into that hard.
Because she hit the ground, dude.
Well, then I love that gets up and like it just tases the shit out of this dude, and then you're under arrest, and then tases him again.
It was funny because the crowd, it didn't respond to shooting the gun in the air. They responded to the cop getting punched to the ground. And then they're like, oh, and like all the fighting stops.
When they're sitting there cheering her ass on as she tases him the second and third time. So funny.
It's that mob mentality, man.
I'm telling you.
Even that scene of Teddy with just clutching a bag, running down the street like a hobo was hilarious to me. Like, I don't even know what that was, but I was like, this is amazing. I could watch him run down a long, dusty road for a lot longer.
Well, they had to have been running for like an hour or two because the sun set and he was still booking it.
Well, I love that his hair's all greasy and he's got this blue man purse, like that he, like you said, Javier, it's like tucked up under his arm, like some sort of like file folder or some shit. And he's just running. And he stops and sees the headlights of a car, and he's like, "Oh shit, I gotta keep going." So he
puts his hair up
in it.
Like that movie with what does he say?
The Tom Cruise of a samurai
like
man bun.
Yeah, like that.
Nobody watched.
Like that Tom Cruise samurai movie that nobody watched.
Oh, man. And so
amazing.
To everyone listening, and we're about to hit the shit, but this movie has some of the greatest one-liners in any movie I've ever watched, and it's
very
so
quotable.
Full of them. Oh man, it's great.
I just went and searched, like CopShop quotes, and I'm super disappointed in the site because it has what few lines weren't entertaining. That's all it has. It's like nobody shoots anybody in here. Yeah. So I'm super disappointed because they're a little harder to find because I wanted to.
It was written by critics.
Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
These are the only good lines. Like,
well, I can't wait.
Why don't you go be a virgin somewhere else?
Yeah, exactly. Well, IMDb usually has some great quotes, but they don't have any because it's so new. I mean, it's only been out for 2 days, man, it's so funny. This is when you first see this state-of-the-art police station, and I'm like, what the hell is it? It was like, this is the greatest sheriff station ever. And they pull in and take down to this high-tech freaking cell system in the bottom.
Seriously. I've never been to jail, but that seemed like overkill for a local police station.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive. But yeah, so this is when things start to get really interesting. Is they put Teddy into the cell, and all you get is a guy that's obviously passed out drunk on a top bunk in a cell across the way. But then, Gerard Butler pretends to be drunk and drives into this other cop, which I was like, I didn't see that coming. Like, it was the most intense way to get arrested because he just drives into these two other cops are at this other scene, and he drives into their car and then gets out and just starts walking away. Acting drunk and shit.
Throws like a whiskey bottle behind him.
Yeah, and they tackle the shit out of him into a ditch.
It's like a 3-second clip of him walking away, and then this cop's like, boom. that cracked me up.
Me too. Oh god,
that was good.
Nothing like a little bit of police brutality to make a movie funny.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
That should be on like a college highlight reel. That was
it was a perfect tackle.
It's like, have you ever seen that commercial where they're in that office building, the office setting, and they're like, they hire the manager's like, we needed some motivation around here, and so they hire this linebacker from the NFL, and he's just constantly tackling people in the office. Get to work.
What is that his name?
I don't remember.
Because that's what I was thinking of too, but I couldn't think of his name. Wasn't it like Terry something? I can't remember.
Yeah, great commercial though. That was one of my favorites.
Okay.
And he's just randomly tackling people. He like knocks down like half of the freaking pods, like the cubicles, because he tackles the one guy into the wall.
When he starts doing like the shuffle in the hallway when the guy's like throwing stuff in the trash, and he's like, I'm gonna have to go watch that again.
Me too. But yeah, great tackle. But then we get into the police station and they're making fun of him because he smells so bad. Like, he's like, this guy shit himself. And they're like carrying Gerard Butler to the cell. And then it starts to get really weird, which I love.
Well, before that, like, I can't help but give credit to the guy that played the sergeant, because I picture that being exactly perfectly what it is like him just berating, like going on this tirade about getting reports and like everybody can't do shit and da 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 da. It was funny to listen to him yell.
Where's my evidence inventory?
So like 3 times.
If you are within the sound of my voice, you better be at my office.
You better not make me come looking for you.
Constantly
this motherfucker's gonna make me come look for him.
Yep. He's just saying, Huber! Like, you hear him yell Huber at least like 5 times. Huber!
What does he say to Valerie? He's like, or no, Valerie comes in and she says, I thought you had an open door policy. And he's like, well, I also have a no pain in the ass policy, but you're not paying attention to that one.
Well, and I told you guys after the movie that was one of my favorite parts of this movie, is it was, and why it's so believable to me, as ridiculous as it gets in moments. Like, I could see a bunch of cops sitting around busting each other's asses, especially out there in the middle of nowhere, right? Like, I feel like 2 drunk guys and some dude that punched a cop at a out of control wedding.
That's an exciting night, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the most exciting night these guys have seen in like months. And so these guys are just sitting around bitching and moaning at each other and making fun of each other. And I was like, I could totally see that being the case.
Well, and I think,
like,
doesn't Valerie say at one point to Teddy where he's like trying to get information out of him, and she just says, Teddy, I don't think you understand how incredibly bored I am.
Yep.
Or that part where they're showing off each other's like revolvers.
Oh yeah.
And he's talking about how he would do that like Russian roulette thing with his dad and shoot a squirrel. And she's like, well, did you ever get one? He's like, no, but my dad did. She's like, oh, so you were a failure in the eyes of your father. Yeah, that tracks.
The dialogue in this movie is so fucking good. Like, oh, it's epically good. Just that I was laughing my ass off at that part. And that's another one that I could just see 2 cops sitting there spinning their fucking revolvers and popping it in, and they do like a duel or whatever, the fake duel after they empty, and they just empty the rounds out on the floor. Like, they don't give a shit. They're just like dumping them out so that they can then have their fake duel. I'm like, what is happening right now? This is probably the most true shit of some random sheriff's department ever. I loved it.
I'm also glad from a gun standpoint, when I saw she had a revolver, I was like, well, that's a terrible choice because you have 8 rounds max, right? And then immediately the sheriff's like, that's a stupid gun. You only have like 8 rounds max. And I was like, thank you.
Yep. So funny. When he called it like single action, yeah, this shit was hilarious because he did bust her ass for it. And she's like, yeah, but it's cool.
Yeah, basically that was her argument. Which I'm just saying, if she had, a Glock with 16 rounds, might have been really helpful, but whatever.
I think the reason that she has that gun is so she can distinguish the bullet when it ricochets.
Yeah.
Dude.
Pretty much like the only reason. So let's just go ahead and get this out here. Let's talk about, so we find out pretty quickly that Gerard Butler's character is there to kill Teddy. Gets his way in, brutally assaults the poor drunk guy in his cell, which was still some of the funniest dialogue of this movie. The drunk dude wakes up. This man's
having a seizure. Yeah. He's gonna die.
As his face is halfway through the bar. This man's gonna die.
Yeah, it's like, here's Johnny, look.
Yeah.
Like,
but before that, we get like comedy gold as the freaking drunk guy's taking a piss and Gerard Butler's talking to him and he's like, huh? Gerard was like, oh, huh? That's what you got, huh? Then he says something again. He's like, huh? Oh, there you go again. And then he says, what? What
are you, a doctor? What are you, a doctor? Oh, yeah, I got my degree at the Common Sense University. Huh? Yeah, I didn't think you studied there either.
Oh, shoot. Well, then he changes it up and he says, what? And he goes, oh, changing it up, keeping people on their toes. I like it.
I respect the self-confidence of a man who would just start mouthing off to another dude in jail. Like, good for you.
Yeah, Did not work out well. Don't recommend it.
No.
Never mouth off.
Very unfounded, unearned confidence for sure.
Well, yeah, and he got like right up in his face too. Like, I will kick your ass. I will fuck you up.
Dude,
you feel me?
Oh,
Yeah,
you feel me?
Feel me?
I'm for real. I'm a real one.
And then he just gets
when he
brutalized.
It was, I don't know what was worse, the smashing his face into the prison bars or the throat punching him 4 times. Dude, or whatever.
That throat punch, like, because at one point, like, you hear something pop, I'm like, he's destroyed his Adam's apple. Like, that thing's gone.
Yeah. Well, and the sounds coming out of that man after, like, I was like, oh, that's too realistic. Like, I don't need to hear that shit.
Yeah. That's traumatizing for me for watching.
Yeah, it was a little rough. It was a little rough.
Oh, what was worse, the throat punches or the resetting the jaw? Because that happens not long after that, too.
Man.
Because Sarge comes in seeing this guy like freaking out and gets like tackled or attacked by Gerard Butler. I can't remember what he does.
He gets hit with that because
he takes his baton.
Yeah, he takes his baton and smacks him in the face with it. And then she comes in. Val comes in and like, I'm gonna put your jaw's dislocated. I'm gonna put my fingers in your mouth now. And you don't even hear it. Like, you don't see it. You just see her hands up in his face, and you just hear this crunch as she puts it back. I was just like, oh, give me the heebie-jeebies. I'm over there going, this is gross. It's bad.
Even that part though, I was okay with, because like the sergeant comes in to the cell. Right. Normally I'd be like, what an idiot. Or just like turning her back to an inmate. But I'm like, he's not an inmate. He's a drunk dude that you picked up, that the highway patrolman dropped off. Right. Like, you're in the middle of nowhere in Nevada. Right. Like, you're not expecting him to be a contract killer.
No. And one that played his part, like 5 minutes beforehand, the last time they saw this guy, they were holding him up through the cell bars to take off his handcuffs and let him go, and he face plants it.
Dude, talk about selling that.
Yeah,
like, holy crap.
He fucking played that part 100% convincing, because like he was slurring and just falling over. Yeah, it was great. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. Like, you're like, oh, don't go in there, but you're like, he doesn't know. He has no idea. He just thinks he's walking into the drunk tank.
And then he hits the floor. The first thing you hear the cop say is, that never happened.
Yeah. That's right.
The bunk is to your right.
Oh shit, I forgot about that. Your bunk is to the right. Oh man. Well, and I love that the other dude, before he gets assaulted and almost killed, like falls out of the bed and then like immediately yaks on the floor. I was like, that tracks. That's
fireball.
Pretty, yeah. I love it. Yeah, so now all mayhem breaks loose, because now we realize what's going on, right? You got a guy that they have to do a tracheotomy on in their infirmary upstairs. So Val does a tracheotomy, which was also very gross.
That was amazing. She's about to go cut, and he's like, aren't you left-handed? And she like switches the scalpel hand. She forgets that she's left-handed. She's so nervous. I did this on a corpse once.
Yeah.
Was it a corpse before you started?
Joke says this man is bleeding out and drowning in his own blood.
What does he say? Like, yeah, humor's like when I start making bad jokes when I get nervous or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Even moments like this where they're doing this life-saving procedure and stuff, like the jokes are just continuous throughout this entire movie. And it just, like Javier said in the spoiler free, you keep waiting for it to drop. Like, you can't keep this up. And somehow they do. It's great. And they finish up with the tracheotomy, and he's just like, oh, that was badass. Did you see what we just did? That was badass.
And it all lands. I think that's the best part, is it stays believable. Like, you know, it doesn't feel forced, I guess, is what. Normally when you have humor like that's in these inappropriate moments, it feels forced, but this feels natural, like, for these characters, and like not out of place. And I think that's
a lot of times you feel like there should be like a rim shot after these jokes, like boom, because they're like, wait, it's so stupid. But this one, it just like flows in the conversation.
Well, and they've done their due diligence at the beginning of the movie, even though the intro to this movie is not long. Like, that setup section of this movie, it's only about 10, 15 minutes, but it gives you the dynamic of these characters and makes like, because this conversation's happening with the character that she had a fake duel with their stupid, worthless handguns, revolvers in the middle of the police station. And so it's believable that they would have these interactions. And I think that's the short time they took to set these character relationships up. They did such a good job that's why these jokes land moving forward. And every character is true to that character from start to finish, which is really great.
That's a really good point, because like the sergeant, the way he's acting, you're like, I know who the sergeant is. He's an old, grumpy black man who's tired of Hubert. And then you immediately just don't like Hubert because the sergeant doesn't like Hubert. And that pays off later, right? Yeah. And you get just attached enough to these characters that when they start dying, you're like, oh, this sucks. Like, I didn't want you guys to die.
Well, and then, so at this point, Gerard Butler has revealed himself, who he is. He's Bob Vidic, and a hitman there to kill, what's his face, Teddy. And then this is when, so she's a badass from start to finish, even when she's messing with her sergeant at the beginning. But Alexis Louder plays that Val. This character is amazing. Like,
dude,
such a badass, and she's
such a badass.
The same character. This is what I love. Like, she doesn't have some big moment where she becomes the hero. She is this character from the very beginning of the movie, and she's the same fucking character through the very end of this movie. Like, she has the same snarky humor. She has the same moral responsibilities. Like, she just is, but she's just a badass from start to finish, and she doesn't give a shit who she's talking to. Yeah, she just tells him, fuck off, you're not getting out. I'm not letting you out.
Dude, when she catches Bob Vidic or Butler's character, like, so he batons the sergeant, takes his gun, unloads at Teddy, but Teddy dives under the bed and screams for help. And right as he's about to open Teddy's cell, you hear like the revolver cock. And their little exchange right there is also amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Really solidifies how much of a badass she is, because she's holding her gun to his head. And Bob Vidic is like, you're shaking. And she's like, I'm so nervous. It's a miracle that I haven't blown your fucking head off. I was like, holy shit. Amazing.
Yeah, her sarcasm game was on point. Like it was fantastic. Yeah, that was a great line. You're shaking. I'm just so nervous. So good. Oh shit.
As funny as the movie's been up till now, it just gets better. Like, because
this isn't even the funniest part.
Yeah, the like main
Anthony Lamb.
I was just saying,
I'm going
in answers
more
Anthony
friendly and
Lamb.
less formal, Tony.
Yeah,
less Tony.
And talk about one of the greatest entrances in all of movie. This dude pulls up in a freaking Chester molester van with
absolutely
on it. Yeah,
a rape cage.
Yeah, it's complete and utter like total stereotype of this psychopath dude. Drives up in a van with balloons that you can tell he probably murdered a clown to get. Takes the freaking balloons, walks in with these giant ass set of balloons to the police station, and immediately just starts talking to this dude that you are really, really enjoy, because this guy, like, he's never at his desk when he's supposed to be, but then like jump scares people all the time when they're sitting there, because he's always in the shitter. Like, they're giving him a hard time. Like, why are you always in the bathroom? And I'm like,
I forgot that when they bring Gerard Butler in, the other state troopers are like, you're diabetic, aren't you? And he's like, not every fat guy is a diabetic.
Forgot about that. Oh, shit. And then he just murders this dude, like shoots him right in the head, sitting there having a conversation.
He's like, you look just like the guy on the screen. He's like, no, what are the odds?
Yeah.
And then he looks at the picture, and then he just pulls out a gun and shoots him in the head.
Yeah. Just pops it. And then he like has like this moment where, like, I kept thinking of Tombstone when Val Kilmer shoots the Johnny Ringo, and he's like, come on, as he's dying. And he's just sitting, because he shoots him in the head, and this cop gets up and he's like wandering around, and he's like, I would just love to know what's going through your head right now.
The bells are rung.
Yeah. The cop falls down, and then to me, probably one of the most random and yet perfect introductions to a psychotic character that I've ever seen. He sits down at the computer and there's this blood spot that's landed on the picture of himself that looks like he's been shot in the head on the computer. And he goes, oh, turns around to the dead cop that he just killed. What are the odds? Do I have a blood stain on my face in the same place that I just shot you in your face? I'm just like, this is the greatest interaction I've ever seen. What are the odds?
I should go buy lottery.
Oh, that's it.
I hope they're powerballing.
I hope they're powerballing.
Oh, God. Well, then is it 2 more cops that walk in, or is it the paramedics at that point that come in?
EMTs.
The paramedics.
Oh, that's right. Because he's like, hurry, this dude just fell. He just fell. And then what?
Well, let me clarify.
Yeah. Let me clarify. I just shot him in the head.
And then he tumbled and fell.
Then he took a tumble.
And then he took a tumble.
And then he proceeded to kill them as well.
He shoots both paramedics.
Uh-huh.
He goes back to the computer. And then the dude who's playing the revolver duel with Val shows up.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like asking a question. He's like, who are you? What's going on? And Anthony Lamb is just like, I was calling for help. I was calling for help. And then he shoots him too.
Yeah, through the balloon, the big giant ass balloon that he brought in.
Through the balloon.
And then he said he has some snarky comment, doesn't he?
And then he's like, that's cop 101. Or that's policing 101.
Oh, that's right.
Always pay attention to the unusual. And in this situation, that would be me.
Oh, this guy is like a true agent of chaos. Like, it is just, he does not care. But then you get one of the most intense scenes with Lamb when he goes down to the cell block, right? And Val has realized that the shit has hit the fan and she's trying to get in there. So she's in this cell entry area that's got a code on a keypad, and she realizes I need to change this code. And so she's sitting there, she's closed the door, and Lamb is walking down the hallway with the freaking submachine gun just unloading, like does not care in the glass. So she's sitting there changing this code, and technology, it's taking too damn long. And the way that they shot this scene where you see her and she has this calm face, right? But you can tell she's freaking out, but the glass chips are flying, landing on her face. You see her, it cuts the close-ups of her with like sweat dripping down her face. And then all you see is like it keeps cutting to this stupid little screen of this keypad with like dots, like it's processing her request.
Waiting.
Yeah, and you
process it, loading.
Hurry the fuck up! Like, and you see he like switches his banana clip and flips it over and starts firing again. It was such an intense like minute and a half of the movie that I was just like, this is crazy. I was just giggling at this weird fucker shooting everybody. Now I'm like super tense because this guy just doesn't care. And then he has the moment, another here's Johnny moment, because he sticks his face through that broken glass after he kills
yeah.
And he goes to shoot her and he's out of ammo. And he's just like, oh, well, that's inconvenient.
Yeah, so that's disappointing. Yeah. And then that, like when Ian was saying, that is when she pulls out her revolver because the code finally changes, opens the door, shoots at Lamb, and then gets shot herself and then shuts the door, right?
Yeah.
So she realizes that she got shot and she's like sitting there processing it for a second.
Well, the best part is she doesn't realize it right out the gate. Like she's sitting there for a minute and Teddy's like, how bad is it? After like there's like bullet like dents in the door from Anthony Lamb.
That was cool.
That was way cool. So you got these big bullet divots that are in the door from the other side. And Teddy asks her, how bad is it? And she goes, are you a fucking moron, Teddy? And then she goes off.
Did you hear all the shooting?
Yeah. Then he's like, that's not what I was talking about. And then you realize that she's bleeding from her stomach. And she's just so calm about it because she's looking at the wound. And then she goes, he was firing a snub-nosed submachine gun that uses 9mm rounds. This bullet that's in my stomach is a 45. Rico.
And Teddy's like, what does that mean?
She just has that sound of self-disappointment that carries so well. It's just like, I shot myself.
Yeah.
Means she shot herself.
Yeah.
I love that's Bob's contribution to this conversation.
Ricochet, Teddy, means she shot herself. Then she's just like, I shot myself. And it's such a great way, like, Because usually in that moment, it's like, oh, the bad guy got off a lucky shot, right? This time it's just the most unlucky bullshit ever because she just gets a ricochet.
And then Tony's out there and starts shooting at her again, and they start ricocheting around, and that would appear to be bulletproof.
How did this dude not shoot himself in the face?
Seriously. He's just such a chaotic. Yeah, Toby Huss is the actor that plays Anthony Lamb. But then you get that. Yeah, so just this guy coming in creates the funniest parts of this movie because he says the most random shit, does the most random shit.
Oh,
and
even in that
beautiful.
moment, like the door closes and he comes up and he looks in and he's like, Theodore.
Yeah.
Whatever he says to Teddy. And then he's like, Bob Vidic, what are you doing locked up here?
Are we going to duel to the death, Bob?
Are we going to duel to the death, Bob? You're like, I go by the less formal Tony now, so I will no longer be responding to Anthony. And then Bob is just like, okay, Anthony.
He just refuses to call him Tony.
And then they go back and forth for like 30 seconds of him being like, I'm not responding to that. Meanwhile, that's all he's responding to is Tony.
I love it.
And then he like exhales on the glass. And then he's drawing something. He's like, look, I drew you a dick. Now I made it weird. when JJ says he says the most random stuff, like it's stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and you're wondering, like, you can't help but watch this guy. Like when he starts breathing on the window, I'm like, okay, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
And he shows the little stubby short dick because it's all the room he's got in the part that he fogged up.
A little chode.
Yeah. Look, I drew you a dick. Oh, now I made it weird.
Now I made it weird.
Well, then they get the cop in on it. What's his Huber, which is like the greatest thing. This guy's just getting harassed the whole time. And this is the part where, like, I did get a little frustrated. It's genius, but it also was like one of the only parts that bothered me about this movie is like the heavy emphasis on this secret organization that runs all the casinos and makes all the bad things go away for these criminals. Like that when Teddy gives the exposition of why he's in trouble and the fact that he's an informant against this organization that you never get to see or hear about, but they've sent 2 assassins and control, you find out later or about in this moment, the one of the big detectives in Vegas. And so it's like, I didn't like how much of a factor, like they tried to keep this organization mysterious feeling, but all I just needed you to say was, well, those people that run the casinos and are responsible for everything in Vegas, they're the ones that are just murdering people right now. Because the backdrop of this whole movie is this attorney general of Nevada has been murdered. And so I think that part was the only part that kind of pulled me out of the movie was all this stuff having to do with the attorney general. It just kept coming back to that. And I'm like, I don't care. All I care about is what's happening right now in this police station. And that was the only thing that distracted me from it. But that's where it really plays in heavy with Teddy's exposition of why he's in there and like spilling the beans on why he's got a hit on him. So that was my only issue, was this shadowy organization that runs Vegas, apparently. Which is also
I wish they would have done a little bit more with what they did at the wedding, where it's like, this is happening. We're not going to explain why. It just is.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't need, and I'm even okay if you leave the part of the AG getting murdered. I just don't need to know why.
Right. Yeah. Because it doesn't change anything, right? No. Like, the people are still trying to kill Teddy, and Bob Vidic is still there, and so is Anthony Lamb.
Yeah. And that's all you needed was him to say in his exposition, there's a group of people that are in the background running everything in Vegas, and I've betrayed them, and now I'm on a hit list. That's all I need to know about that organization. I don't need to know they've murdered the AG. I don't need to know all the different things. I just need to know that this is happening, and this is why. Great, there's my explanation. Let's get back to the fucking psychosis that is running through this building right now.
Yeah, I think they did a really good job, because about this point in the movie is when Bob Vidic and Teddy are kind of going back and forth, like telling Val, hey, I need to help you. I need to help you. Don't let him out. And I think they do a good job of giving like just enough doubt to make you think like, yeah, maybe this is the person I should let out. but is it? Because you got like Bob Vidic, who's the contract killer. He's just here to kill Teddy. And then you've got Teddy, who's kind of like, you start to endear to him because he's the one that's getting chased down. But his past is he's obviously not a trustworthy character. So I like what they did with putting just enough doubt in each of those characters to make you go like, who would I pick?
Well, and to me, this is another point of so we have the genius writing and the dialogue and how just all over the place and cool and believable this movie is. But what they also do, and we didn't talk about yet, was the fact that you were talking about, Ian, that Teddy's just likable enough that you have this, and Gerard Butler's Gerard Butler, and he plays Bob with such charisma that you can't help but think, okay, you got a contract killer that's obviously good at what he does. Set this guy loose so that he can protect you. Or you have this like piece of sympathy for Teddy because what they did was geniusly write this undertone of his wife, his ex-wife and kid that immediately, because he's afraid for them, immediately endears you to him because you can relate to that. If I was in that position, I would be worried about these people that I care about as well. Even though this guy turns out to be a complete and utter douchebag. And you see that from the beginning, like this guy is a piece of shit, but they did such that subtle little piece of him calling and trying to help his ex-wife and kid ties you to him so that now in this moment where you have to choose, it makes it so that there's reasons to choose both, like you said. So it just goes to show again, the genius level of the writing in this movie is just, I can't say it enough. Just that one little thing ties you to Teddy pretty quickly.
And I think at this point, I even leaned over to Javier and I was like, I am conditioned to trust Gerard Butler. Like, that's what I've seen him in all these movies. Like, I can't not trust Gerard Butler.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then
and I think they leaned on that pretty well.
Oh, yeah. And that's what I was saying. Secretly, as a moviegoer, I'm like, just cut him loose. It's going to be fun to watch him go. Like, you know, because we know that this man is good at acting out killing people. So
I even like when Bob Vidic was talking about Teddy's family. Teddy's like, oh, well, you mean my ex? I don't give a shit. That kid's not even mine. And then Bob, not buying it for a second, just stares at him. And then Teddy's like, okay, fine. Yeah. So he like tries to play it off like, you've got nothing on me. He's like, okay, fine. All right, let's talk business.
Yeah. Such good writing. Well, and then so she does decide to leave Teddy out. And this is where I found it really interesting too, because you get to have this moment of, it would have been less believable to me if Val, as the character that we've met up until this point, and the choices that she's made up to this point, would have let Gerard Butler go. Because she's obviously like, it was funny during Shang-Chi, we talked about all the different like levels of where you're at. And this is one hell of a lawful good character. Like, she has a moral code that she sticks with, and she's all about law. And to her, this guy's getting hunted down, and while he's a fixer and he's done some shitty things, he's not a contract killer. Like, so to her, it's the lesser of two evils. So she lets Teddy out to go get this medical kit to help her. But Gerard Butler, and I was like, why is he doing this? Because it doesn't make sense. But then you find out that the secret of Teddy's family having been murdered and dumped by Tony Lamb is out now. And Gerard Butler outs it. But again, in a moment of genius writing, Gerard Butler knows Teddy, and he knows that he didn't kill them. So Teddy's not going to kill him for it. Once he realizes who did it, he's going to go after Anthony Lamb, which gives him the ability to see gives her the ability to see who Teddy really is. So again, just a genius move on Bob Vidic's part to trigger. I was like, why would you trigger this man when she just let him out? But it was to show who he really is, so that he had leverage to get himself out in a little bit. Because the gunfire starts, and it's crazy.
Well, I like that Bob Vidic does the like. Teddy asks him like, "Did Anthony do this?" And Bob Vidic says, "I don't know." Like, I just thought it was interesting, like how honest Bob is. Like, he just tells 100% the truth, like knowing it could go either way. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because for me, I'm going, yeah, it was Tony. It was definitely Tony.
Well, and he was like, where were the bodies found? And he's like, yeah, I can't be sure, but it was definitely Tony.
Yeah.
So before Teddy gets out is probably the best scene with Tony Lamb.
Oh, yeah.
Where him and Hubert are trying to figure out how to get into the cell. Because at this point, Val and Hubert had a conversation, and she knows that he's a piece of shit. And it's just like, curtain's drawn back. You're like, okay, great. Hubert is officially sucks.
Yeah, and he's killed the Sarge. Like Huber killed the Sarge, and then the guy that they did the trach on. So you see that this he's a real piece of shit. Yeah, it's a good point. But yeah, this conversation.
And then, so they're trying to figure out a way in, and they can't get through any of the doors because they're all like tank blast doors, basically. So Hubert's idea is to just sledgehammer down one of the walls leading into the cell. And I can't even remember that whole tirade, that whole conversation, but I just remember that it cuts to Hubert all sweaty. He's made no progress on this wall. He is sweating. And he's like, hey, asshole, like, I thought we were going to be swapping out. And then Lamb is like, I've already killed 4 people.
So I need a rest.
See, you are a cop. So when you kill someone, it's murder. I kill people. So when I do it, it's labor.
Yeah. What I love that he's just laying on this freaking locker room bench reading this like People magazine.
Like People, yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, I'm tired. This thing's heavy. And he's like, don't you want to, he shows this picture of Chris Hemsworth and his wife on the beach. And he's like, don't you want to look like this one time in your life? Like, it's like Chris Hemsworth out on the beach with his wife. He's like, he's like, you got to look like this one time. He goes, right now it ain't it. He's like, don't you want to look like Thor? You better get to swinging that hammer.
Up that. Yep. Better get to swinging that hammer, my Norseman.
That's right, my Norseman. What a great fucking interaction. And so he just keeps swinging. Oh, man. So funny. Yeah, and this is what
that was an amazing tirade. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it was. I was so good, laughing so hard I couldn't breathe, and he just kept going.
That was the funniest part of that movie.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, okay. So what happens after that?
Well, no, because then that's when I was like shocked because like the other two, Teddy's out, right, and so he comes into the bathroom, and these other 2 cops have come back from checking out the scene where Teddy said that he was attacked by the FBI and the cops got in the shootout. And like so many people get randomly shot in this movie. And like, so Anthony Lamb has killed one of the cops and then shot the other ones in the knee and is trying to make Huber shoot him.
Do it all nice like.
Yeah. It's like, I am going to shoot this man. If you want this to be humane, you need to do it. He's like trying to hand.
I'm going to unload this cartridge into his face.
That's right. That's right. So he's getting ready to shoot him, and then Teddy walks in and tries to shoot Huber, I think. Just shoots this cop in the back of the head.
It was terrible.
It was horrid.
It should not have been funny because a moment earlier, this cop's like, I promised my kids I would be home tonight. Like, it is devastating. And then Teddy just Spartan kicks the door open, accidentally shoots him in the back of the head. You're like, that is typical Teddy. That's typical this movie.
Well, and then he unloads and misses everyone else in the room. Like
everyone else. It is a straight hallway shot to both Tony and Hubert, and he misses with a freaking Uzi.
The only person he hits is the cop that he should never have even been shooting in that direction of. Like, it's so stupid, but it's so typical. Yeah, and I love it.
That locker room must be pretty large because this is where they like shut off the lights and start playing the throw your voice, like come find me, and turns on the showers and it starts to like kind of muffle the sound. And you have Hubert, Teddy, and Tony that are all in this kind of maze.
Well, you don't know Hubert's in it yet because while this is going on, Gerard Butler gets out, or Val lets him out, and Butler runs into Hubert and shoots him in the legs, takes his taser, tases Hubert while he's on the ground like several times, and then pepper sprays his open wounds on his leg. I'm like, wow, this is a lot. Yeah. This is...
But
as brutal as it was, I was satisfied by it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so satisfying.
Hey, Hubert, where's those inventory reports?
Yeah. Where's my
I bet you wish you did those inventory reports.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then, like, one of the craziest and funny scenes I don't want to laugh at, but I can't help myself, just like this cop getting shot. So Bob shoots Tony in the throat or stabs him in the throat and leaves him in the shower. Yeah, they get
Nice.
they were-
Yeah, because
So,
Tony stabs
Tony-
Bob in the hand,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
and Bob's
and
like,
then
Anthony.
slits his throat with the knife that is in his hand.
Yeah, it's still in his hand.
Yeah.
There's a
He's
bit,
like,
he goes through his hand, and
"Oh,
all
now
three
it
of us are
hurts."
sitting there, and he's like, we're all like,
Ooh.
oh. And then he's just like, he's looking at it all calm, doesn't make any reaction. And then, like you said, Javier, he goes, Anthony.
Anthony, all disappointed.
Yeah.
Anthony.
And then, like, turns the knife on Anthony's throat. So he hits him, had to have been in his jugular vein or close.
It's like he's like, yeah, the artery that's like on the side of your neck, you know?
Yeah, the carotid. Yeah, so he's just bleeding everywhere, and he falls down. He can't talk. And Gerard Butler looks at the knife, and he's like, starts to pull it out. And he goes, "Oh, now it hurts." Pulls it out,
And then he shows it to Anthony, right?
yeah,
He's like, we're gonna need a bigger knife.
because he's already threatened to cut his head off and send it to this guy in Chicago who wants like his head. Because Tony's like, "You still got that contract in Chicago?" Or Bob to Tony, "You still got that contract in Chicago? I'm gonna cut your
like
fucking head off and
65.
drive it, put it in a bag and drive it to Chicago." That's why he says, "I'm gonna need a bigger knife." Well, and the whole time I was laughing because it's such a, again, Tony sticks with this character. He's laying in this shower, bleeding out through his neck, and he's like mad and like trying to yell at Bob. And then he'll just start hysterically laughing in the middle of it. And then he'll go back to yelling and then hysterically laughing. I'm like, this guy is 100%.
And that's the moment when Bob is like, "I'm going to need a bigger knife to cut off your head." He starts laughing.
Yeah.
And Bob's like, "Well, that's a reaction."
Yeah. And then Javier, you made a great point when we were talking about after the movie is this is a moment where the whole, or no, maybe it was Ian, the whole time Gerard Butler's character is telling Val not to trust
Teddy.
Oh, that's
That was
right.
And then Teddy shows up with this submachine gun pointed at Gerard Butler, and he's like, "Parlay? What's that?"
Pirate code.
Pirate code.
I really wanted Teddy to go, "Huh?"
Yeah, I had me too. I thought the same thing. I was like, how great would it have been? He's like, "Parlay? Huh?"
Huh?
It would have been great because Gerard Butler could have shaken his head and be like, "Oh my God." So Teddy
Pirate
shoots.
code.
Yeah, pirate code. We start to have a conversation. Or a truce, a ceasefire.
A temporary ceasefire against a greater enemy.
He's like, "Come over here. Bob's still alive. You can finish him off for your family." And then he wildly shoots Gerard Butler. And you think
Which
he's
I
done.
totally would have done.
Oh,
I leaned over to
absolutely.
Ian. I'm like, 100%. I would have done that.
Yeah.
Shoot Gerard Butler, go shoot Tony, shoot Gerard Butler again, and then leave.
Yep. But he doesn't shoot Gerard Butler again.
Nope, that's his mistake.
Yep.
Definitely does not.
So then one of my favorite moments of this whole movie happens. So Teddy goes up to the upstairs of this precinct, gets in the refrigerator, pulls out somebody's lunch, and starts eating in the kitchen while first he sets the basement on fire to kill Val instead of letting her go like he promised. Then he's up.
Well, he
eating lunch.
promised to come back with that medical kit so she could patch herself up.
And as he's eating the sandwich, he looks over and he sees the medical kit is out. And then it dawns on him, oh shit. And Val's just sitting in a chair behind him. Teddy, were you coming
and
back?
now she has a Kevlar vest. And I'm like, finally, you should have been wearing that before.
No shit. But again, when breaking up a wedding fight's the biggest thing you do all week.
You're on duty.
This is where
I thought that was just standard.
This is where she, you see that she got fixed up, and she said, what did she say? She gets an adrenaline shot. She says, now I'm feeling kind of rambunctious.
Yep. Just so calm. Yep. Teddy, I've had an adrenaline shot, so I'm feeling a little rambunctious. And I will say that this gunfight takes me out of the movie a little bit. Like, I think it goes on just a bit too long.
This is the most ridiculous part of the movie.
Oh, for sure.
Right? The fire is fake. They have spent no CGI budget on this fire. They pulled some art student kid out of a second tier college and was like, can you draw fire? And he's like, yeah, and he can't. Like, someone lied on their resume.
You could tell they've spent all their budget on Gerard Butler and Frank Grillo, and
yes,
they have none left for the fire.
Yep. And so this is firefight. This is like, while we're on the topic of guns, there's like this armory, right, that you see.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. And I'm like, oh, and it's like behind this glass wall, basically. You would assume that a police station that has an armory and it's glass is like bulletproof glass, like the same type of glass that you put downstairs in the little prison cell. It is not. It is regular glass. So Teddy just freaking elbows this glass, shatters, and he goes, picks up like an M16. And I'm like, okay, well, that's irresponsible storing of guns. So they need to work on that.
Yeah, so this whole gunfight was not very good. And then Gerard Butler comes back to life and like shoots Teddy. And then this other, no. Other cop, the crooked cop lady. Like
we haven't even talked about her because her part makes no sense in this movie.
Sense. It's so dumb. Just shows the further explanation of this shadowy organization that she works for. But yeah, she comes in and shoots Val in the chest with this like slug shotgun, and Val gets her breath back in like 2 seconds. I'm like, oh my god, you just cracked your sternum. Like,
that's exactly what I was saying. I was like, your sternum is broken.
Yeah, you're done. Right. I mean, you may not die, but you're fucked up because that was not a long range shot that she took.
No, it was probably buckshot or whatever.
Yeah. So it was just. And then Gerard Butler comes back and saves her life by killing this cop. So the whole thing just takes me out of this movie. I was like, yeah, this gunfight was like the worst part of the movie, which is ridiculous because it should have been one of the best parts, but it was bad.
So I didn't hate the gunfight, but it wasn't great. It wasn't the best part of this movie.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't even the best violent part of this movie.
I like that Gerard Butler doesn't make the same mistake as Teddy because he unloads like 4 rounds of buckshot or whatever it is into his face.
Yeah. It's like, congratulations, Bob. You finally beat boom. Just right into the face.
And then he just keeps going.
Yeah. It's like, whew. I love also how the question is always in the back of your head and in the back of Val's head if Bob is going to kill Val. Right. So he like walks up to her and just helps her up. You're like, oh, okay. Whew.
Well, and then he knows who she is. So he's like, Valerie, like all like lecture tone, like Valerie, don't do it.
Don't come after me.
Yeah. And then the recall and the joke so they have this joke of deja vu and Teddy doesn't know what it.
Oh yeah.
Deja vu.
It's not what deja vu is, dummy.
Yeah. So stupid. And I will say, like, there was a point where she gets up and it cuts to black, and I thought the movie, I was like, please just end it there. But then they don't. They show her getting into this ambulance or whatever, and Teddy's driving, or Bob's driving away. And then she commandeers this ambulance. And up until that point, I'm like, oh, I wish they hadn't done this. But I'm not going to lie that the split screen because Tony kept singing this song, Teddy's Dead, like throughout the movie. So they show this split screen because they both get in the car and turn on this radio station that's playing the actual song Teddy's Dead. And so I love this moment of split screen of both of them laughing at the fact. And then Gerard Butler goes, deja vu. And then they both she's chasing him down in a commandeered ambulance and he's driving away. And they're just singing this song. And then the movie ends. So I love ultimately how it ends, but I didn't love how it got there.
Javier, you got to throw in your name comment.
Yeah, you've got one of my favorite lines is when Bob Vidic calls the guy in Chicago and he's like, hey, tell this dude I'm on his way and I'm bringing him. And he looks at the bag with Anthony's head in it. It's like, I'm bringing him a nice cut of lamb.
Yeah,
I'm like, yes.
So good. So good.
He's actually got a really nice voice.
That's true. I love that part. Great one-liners.
Oh, that's the end of the movie. Man, have we ever done a movie from start to finish?
I think the only other movie we've ever done start to finish was the one with the crazy road rage movie.
Oh, yeah.
Unhinged,
yeah.
Unhinged. That movie changed me.
Crowe, man.
That movie was rough.
I'm nicer to people because of that movie.
Yeah, it's definitely on the road. I am.
It makes me feel like I'm not as bad as I thought I was at road rage.
Ian's like, I got leeway. I could be meaner to people.
Yeah, for me, it was like I was looking in a mirror. I'm like, ooh, I could see myself getting there. Let's rate this thing. I'll kick us off. I loved this movie. I didn't think I was going to love it. I thought it might be an average movie. But it was great. It was funny. The action was fun, most of it. The dialogue is some of the best I've ever seen in a movie and heard. And I don't think I've ever laughed so hard because of just smart dialogue from front to back in a movie. It was just consistent. I told you guys the other night, I was like, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop in this movie to not like to start to suck. And it just didn't. And it was so good that I forgave probably a few things, but I really enjoyed this movie. I want to watch it again. I cannot wait to watch it again, to catch other things and laugh at these jokes again. The acting was amazing. The main girl, Val, Alexis Louder, man, people start hiring this woman because she's amazing. She was great in this movie. Gerard Butler, always great. Frank Grillo, I really enjoyed his character in this. This is just a good movie, guys. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I loved almost everything about this movie. I'm giving it a 4.5. Thoroughly enjoyable. Go see this movie. Javier.
Yeah, I'm going to keep mine short too, because I think I just giggled my way through this whole episode with all the best parts. It's awesome. Like, it is funny. The acting is really well. It's just like the chemistry between the actors is really, really good. As far as line delivery goes, the storyline, like, except for those parts that JJ was talking about with like the underground shadow organization, isn't that convoluted. It's just like, it's a game of cat and mouse. It's just there's a lot of cats and mice in this movie. So like, they don't go overboard with the story. It is what it is. There's some criticisms, like that fire CGI is terrible. The last firefight like is a little long and a little ridiculous, but I think I'm going to give this I'm between a 4 and a 4.5. I'm going to give it a 4.5 because I was just entertained. I had a lot of fun watching this movie. Absolutely. So yeah, I would watch it again. I want to watch it again.
Oh, me too. Can't wait. Ian.
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. The consistent humor throughout this movie is just, it's hard to find a movie that could do it as well as this movie did. Man, I'm trying to think of something that I can mention that you guys haven't already, and it's like, I was super entertained just talking about it. And that's always a good sign for me. If you can walk out of the movie theater and you're laughing about it, or you want to kind of dive into it deeper, go back and see it. So I'm going to stick with you guys, 4.5. Like, this is a great movie for how low my expectations were. This came out great, and I'm excited to see it again.
For sure.
Well, they did a good job not overhyping it too, right? We didn't watch 100 trailers on it before we went and saw it.
Yeah. I think I only saw the trailer twice, which was that's exciting. And the trailer was so good, it made me like, I was instantly like, guys, we have to do that movie. I'd never even heard of it before that.
They didn't even show the best parts in the trailer. Right? They showed some good parts, but like
not even close to the best parts. So
their marketing did really well, I think.
Yeah, very well. It's a high score for this movie, 4.5 across the board. Go see this movie. It's so fun. Obviously, be careful. Take your time, make sure you're comfortable going to see a movie theater. But, man, do what you got to do because this movie is entertaining as all hell. Next week, Cry Macho. We'll see how that goes. So, yeah, tune in for that one. And then October, like I said, it's crazy. So keep an eye out at the website, whatsourverdict.com, to make sure you know what we're watching. We may have a couple of bonus episodes just because there's so many damn movies coming out in October. So if we can find the time and make that happen, we will. Keep an eye out for that. Check us out on the socials, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, all at What's Our Verdict. Reach out to us, communicate. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, host at whatsourverdict.com. We'd love for you to leave us a review on whatever platform you listen to us on. As always, we love that you tune in. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye now.
Cinemagic out.